Welcome everyone to the final CPO 1 meeting as it exists currently. Tonight, we are going to have a candidate forum of all of the people who want to represent us on various positions. But first, we'll start, as we have been for the last few years, with the land acknowledgement. And I'm going to share my screen. We acknowledge the people on whose land we live, the Atfalidi Kalapuyans, also known as the Tualatin Band of Kalapuyans, the first inhabitants of Washington County. We are grateful for the land we are on, Kalapuyan land. Signers of the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 were removed from their homelands to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. Today, their descendants are tribal members of Grand Ronde and Siletz tribes, carrying on the traditions and cultures of their ancestors. We acknowledge and express gratitude for the ancestors of this place and recognize that we are here because of the sacrifices forced upon them. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their continuation in our community. I'd like to invite all of us to reflect on the role government has played in the painful colonial history and reflect as well on the resilience and healing of the Indigenous land and communities. We invite everyone to collaborate and work together with the tribe to take care of the land and water and the people who inhabit these spaces. And one of the reasons I like to share that every meeting is because it's very much in line with the focus of the CPO program for all these years, to take care of the land and water and the people who inhabit these spaces. We don't know who's going to be representing us in the future, who's going to be providing the services that we've been providing. There will be a work session of the Board of Commissioners on the afternoon, I believe at 1 p.m., March 17th. The meeting isn't listed on the county, it's there, but it isn't linked to anything yet. But if you go to the county page, go to government, which is one of the buttons at the top, and then go to board meetings, you will, in the next few days, you'll see the work session on March 17th. That will have the agenda and a link to either join the meeting, which just means you can watch and hear it. It's not an interactive participation possibility, but you can hear it. And if you miss it at that time, you can watch the video. And if you go afterwards and click on the agenda item, it will take you directly to that part of the video, which is really nice. I also wanted to add that unbeknownst to me, there's a Washington County Charter amendment on the ballot, and that is regarding changes to the requirements for the county auditor. It's somewhat interesting if you're interested in that sort of thing, and that is on the Washington County elections page, which is if you just go to the county website and search for elections, and then on the right-hand side, you'll have a bunch of irrelevant stuff come up if you just search for elections. But if you click on the right-hand side for divisions, it'll take you straight to the election division, to the current election, and that has all the candidates and all the information, if you're that kind of person. So that's pretty good.
Virginia, is that not on the commissioner's agenda at this point?
The March 17th?
No. The thing about the auditor.
It's already been passed, I assume,
Oh,
because it's on the ballot. Yeah,
okay,
that slipped by me, and
okay.
I'm not the only one. It's, it's if you're interested in how the auditor works and what they do and what background they need, I guess it's an interesting topic. And if you go to that elections page, you can click on it and you can read it's just a request for a ballot title right now. So presumably they'll have a ballot title by the time we're ready to vote on it. Let me bring in, let's see, who have we got? We have Sergeant DiPietro here to join us from the Washington County Sheriff's Office. Are you there? Hi. If everyone else would like to go ahead and click off their camera, that'll let us focus on Sergeant DiPietro. He's been extremely helpful in helping us understand lots of stuff here in Cedar Mill. And while he talks, I'm going to go ahead and update my list so that we know who's here. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen real quick with the stats for your area. Once we get those pull up, perfect. Can you guys see all those?
Oh, you're good.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Perfect.
You're good.
See if I can zoom this in a little bit too. Everything looks great. Not seeing anything abnormal. Not going to go too much into these. I just wanted to chat with you all and see if there's any questions that came up recently. And then I wanted to touch on a few things, but I want to make this quick because I know you guys have a lot on your agenda tonight. Close, just outside of your guys' CPO area, we had a homicide on Friday. In case you saw that in the news, just want to let you know. The individual was taken into custody that same night and was charged with the homicide, or I believe it was murder in the second degree. I'm not positive exactly if it was murder one or murder two, but I believe it was two. It was not stranger on stranger. They were two known people, so there's no community concern at this time. The other thing I really wanted to touch on is something that we have going on right now. It's called our DFR, Drone First Responder Program. You guys might see it a little in your area, given maybe more of the southwest area of your CPO. What this program is, it's through our drone unit, and what they are doing is we have two drones right now that are stationed over on the old Blanton fire station area there over off 209th and Blanton. And actually, Washington County owns that now. And we have two of these drones that are out there, and they are completely remote. And what they're able to do is get eyes on a scene very, very fast. And right now we're going through a 60-day trial period to see if this is something we're interested in. And it has been very, very successful. Some questions that have already come up that I want to address right away. The drones have absolutely no facial recognition software on them. The drones are only used to respond to incidents. They are not actively patrolling and searching anywhere in the area, to include residential areas. For us to fly it inside a residence or near residence, we're going to have a consent or a warrant to do that. So it's not a spy thing. This is a tool that we are using to try to get on scene fastest. So some of the examples we've seen are car crashes. We're able to get there really quick, get the eyes in the sky, and realize, holy cow, this is bigger than we expected. We don't need just two cars. We need 4 or 5 going for traffic control, and it looks like there's going to be some injuries. Or vice versa, where we go and we put a drone over top and like, hey, this is a 1-car response. They're off the side of the road. We don't need to waste other resources on this. Additionally, we just were able to help capture somebody who stole from a plaid pantry. We're able to get overhead right away. And about 15 minutes ago, they just had a successful utilization of the drone. We're seeing it left and right. It has been very helpful. It's an amazing tool. We're hoping to learn more from it. But I want to just let you guys know they're out there. The one way to recognize our drones, specifically these ones, they have really cool red and blue flashy lights on them. So it's like a police car, same kind of notification. So if you look up, you see red and blue lights flashing, that's going to be us. No, we're not making any traffic stops with these vehicles. You only have to stop for red and blue lights if they are on a vehicle, but the drones may be above head. So if you see something like that, just want you to know it's probably us. Bruce, I see your hand up. I'm going to take this off so I can see more people. Bruce, what do you got for me?
Is the use of a red and blue light specifically limited to law enforcement?
Yes, on a vehicle. So let's ignore the drone. In order to use Correction, just blue lights. In order to use blue lights, you have to be either law enforcement, and they changed it a few years ago to fire as well. Having blue lights on your vehicle is a big no-no. We see it all the time in the Christmas time when people put their lights on their car to be festive. Technically, it's illegal. Kind of don't always. We kind of get in the festive spirit, maybe let that one slide a little bit. But at the same time, yeah, no blue lights. So if you see blue headlights, those are illegal. No blue lights.
I think that's misleading. There's an article in the current issue of Cedar Mill News. The blue lights in the parking lots might be sheriffs. They might be private companies.
You're talking about the
license plate readers,
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we learned and that I shared in that article.
Absolutely.
That Home Depot can have license plate readers, and there's no control over who shares their.
Yeah, the blue lights are specifically what I was speaking towards on vehicles. You can't have a blue light on a vehicle. So the blue lights that you see on those trailers, or the blue lights we see them a lot on college campuses, the safety buttons. You see them on the Intel campuses, basically a big light that says, hey, come here for help. I think it's really smart that they put them in blue, because a lot of those people who need help, it might be police presence, and you see blue, you think police or law enforcement. So that's a little specific. Any other questions I can answer?
Nope. I was able to contact the PIO and get the answer to a bunch of people on our Facebook group worried about what was going on. And I think it was a break-in someplace.
Perfect. But you got that information out to them? Is that what I understood?
Yes. And there was something going on today, but I didn't get a chance to look into it. There were a bunch of sirens and stuff around, I believe, what did they say? Murray and Cornell? But never found out what it was.
Okay. I haven't heard anything yet. I've been a little pulled off to other things. I can take a look into it while you guys do the other things. And Virginia, I can shoot you an email so you can update people if it's something that's important to the community.
Yeah, that's okay. It is nice to be able to allay people's concerns.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have Lindsay. Unless anybody else has a burning question for the chef, thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely.
We have Lindsay Wachnick. Hi.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay Wachnick. I am with Tualatin Valley Water District. We provide water, drinking water, to the CPO area, one area, as well as in unincorporated Washington County, including Beaverton, Tigard, and Hillsborough. Just a quick few updates to share. Each year, we complete about 12 to 14 water main replacement projects, which target our aging or our more mature underground mains in our service area. Right now, we're just wrapping one up on Southwest Skyhar Drive in Portland. And we have our fourth and fifth water main replacement projects of the year that are currently underway or are going to start within the next couple weeks. Those are on Southwest Murray Boulevard, Frontage Road, as well as Southwest Todd Street, and that would include Linda Lane, and then 137th through 139th Avenues. And all of these fourth and fifth water main replacement projects are in Beaverton. And if you want any more details, want to see what else we're doing in the service area, you can go to tvwd.org/projects. We are also beginning to schedule our community event participation for 2026. And we're looking forward to being at the Cedar Mill Farmers Market, as well as hopefully local national night out somewhere in CPO 1. So look for us there. And then just last, a quick ask for everybody. We're encouraging our customers to update their their contact information, apologies, so we can quickly reach them if we have any emergencies, service disruptions, and to let you know when we're going to be going live in your neighborhood and integrating our new water source in 2026. And you can submit your changes online at tvwd.org/update, or you can call our customer service staff at 503-848-3000. And those are my updates. If anybody has any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Not that I can think of.
All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Bruce, do you have any other updates? Those are all the people that I see that are usually in our service provider list. We will be hearing from the Park District, but not necessarily a standard service provider.
One thing I wanted to add for the Beaverton School District, I keep getting requests for volunteers for the Clothes for Kids facility, the free clothing facility that the Beaverton School District provides, and all the school districts actually provide them, but we're pretty much all in the Beaverton School District. So you don't have to have children at the Beaverton School, in the Beaverton School, to be a volunteer. You do have to go through an application process and get a background check, which seems reasonable. And then you can volunteer. And I find that the Clothes for Kids facility is really quite a joyous and necessary thing that we're doing. So I'll just put in a plug for that.
Great. And I'll just put in a quick reminder plug for the Cedar Mill News. If you don't, it doesn't just give you news about Cedar Mill. I'll still continue to cover stuff in the county as much as I can. And as I mentioned in the email, the CPO leaders are still considering ways that we can stay in touch with our neighbors and provide information. And I sent out an email to the CPO group that if anybody has any ideas, please let us know. And as far as I know, we're going to be able to keep the email cpo1leaders@gmail.com. So if you have that, you can get in touch. Gee, I think that's about it. So since we already have the people here for our first item, Pam Tree, Sniffy Sasai, and Jenny Capra, we can jump right in. And if we get too far ahead of ourselves and our participants aren't here, we can go through a couple of questions, I suppose. So if you guys would like to pop your video on, wonder maybe we should just do it one at a time, or should we?
We have a THPRD raised hand here.
Absolutely. Sorry. Okay. Take that all back. Aisha Panis is here to share information about the THPRD bond measure.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay, Virginia. I, thought you forgot all about me for a moment.
You're good. You're
We're
good.
here. We're here. Yes, I'll share my screen. If I get a moment here. Should be right there. All right. Great. That should be on your screen, right? Okay, wonderful. Well, good evening. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I am pleased to be here with you this evening. I'm Aisha Panis. I'm the Deputy General Manager for Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. And tonight I'm here to provide you some information about the proposed 2026 replacement bond that would be on the May 2026 ballot. I'll acknowledge that it's tough to talk about taxes. It's no one's favorite discussion, but and I do apologize for that. But I am here as a public employee. I'm here just to provide information to give you an understanding of what is ahead of you in that ballot, and inform on what this bond measure would do, why we're pursuing it, what it would fund, and what happens if it were not to pass. So this 2026 replacement bond is being proposed to replace the 2008 bond that is retiring slightly ahead of schedule, ahead of that expected timeline. And this is a once in a 20-year ask. This is something that will keep us delivering projects for many years if it were to be approved. And it is not something that would we would return to you with. There was a ballot measure in 2024 that was related to an operating levy, and that is a different thing. This is a capital bond. So just jumping into this, let me get to the next slide here. Just a very quick overview of the district. We now serve 270,000 people from humble beginnings in 1955, so 70 years ago, 70 plus years ago, when we were serving just 3,000 people. And we were created as a special district to focus exclusively on park and recreation services. And this was done from the work of Elsie Sturr and others in the community. And we now serve a 50 square mile area and about 170 people in urban unincorporated, primarily Eastern Washington County, and about 100,000 within the city of Beaverton. So the infographic you see on the screen gives a picture of what we care for. We have over 120 parks now, 6 different recreation facilities, 8 pools, hundreds of spaces for people to play and recreate. So in January of this year, our THPRD board approved to refer a replacement ballot measure or bond measure to the voters on that May ballot. This is for $280 million, and that would be funding projects over the course of a 20-year period. And this replacement bond is timed to begin as the existing 2008 bonds retire. And that timing matters because for taxpayers, we want this to be as seamless as possible. We want to stop paying on that first bond measure before we would begin paying on the 2026 one. We understand it is a big number, that 280 million, but a couple of things just to think about is that that's 280 million over the course of the 20 years, about 15 or $14 million per year for the capital projects. And when you look at a system of our size, of our age, we have a lot of buildings, spaces, places that are showing their wear, showing the love of the community. And so the emphasis for this measure, and this came directly from not only our bond task force that we convened to inform this measure, but also our levy task force from 2023-24, was that there was a push for us to find a way to take care of what we have now. And so this bond would be primarily focused on repairing and replacing our existing system. And there may be a little, there will be some funding for new, but primarily this would be replacement and repair. So this next slide shares with you our general bond categories that would be present in this bond. In connecting trails, we look at repairing trails, constructing gaps within our system, and addressing safety concerns. In the accessible and safe category, that would be looking at improving our building entrances, addressing safety and security at our centers, similar to what you see in the schools in the area. In our building and facilities category, we're really focused on roofs, HVAC replacements, updating lighting, improving our pools. In recreation parks and community spaces, this is looking at some of our aging parks, replacing old play structures, and repairing our sports fields. And then in environmental stewardship, we would be looking at things like solar panel installations, energy efficiency upgrades within centers, and a district-wide tree planting program. As I mentioned, we had a community-led bond task force that informed our process and informed our board with why they thought a bond was necessary to address our backlog, which at this point exceeds $300 million. But we believe that with the $280 million that would be generated using the same tax rate that was originally approved in 2008, that plus the amount that we currently dedicate annually, which is about $3 to $4 million for capital repair, will definitely put a major dent in that backlog. It will take some time to get there, but that is what the purpose of the bond is for. So as I mentioned, we would be targeting that same tax rate and using the average property assessed value in our district. That would generate, or it would cost about $10 per month or about $120 a year for that average assessed home value. On this slide, I wanted to share a few things that this bond could fund. We have many different trail repairs and connections that we need to give some attention to. Within our buildings, we have a number of repairs that include the roof at our athletic center, which serves as a shelter location in the county. Right now, we have a walking track on the top of that building that we have to put buckets out onto because when we have heavy rains, we have water coming in through that roof. So we want to do a full new roof replacement there. We also have boardwalks that are failing. We have pool tanks that need resurfacing. And when you multiply this across that entire district that I shared the numbers with you, that is why that $14 million a year would really go a long ways to repairing some of those items. There's some more examples here on the next slide where we've got plumbing issues. The picture on the far left here was from some flooding that happened at our Elsie Stir Center 2 years ago during that winter storm. We've got older systems that need care. We've got fields that are failing. That's the image next to the plumbing issue where our infields are unplayable and damaged when we get people out there when it's a little too wet. We're hoping that we could convert some of those infields to synthetic turf, which would be very helpful, increase our playability, increase the capacity for us to serve folks on those fields. And we have sports courts that are suffering that if we cannot afford to pay to fix them, we would have to close them. And then on the right, you see our fire suppression systems that are aging throughout our entire system. And we're in the process of making some of those upgrades, but we would be able to do many more. So that is an overview of the bond. I don't want to share the photos to scare anyone, but we are required to share what would happen if the bond were not to be passed. And unfortunately, it does mean that without funding to repair and replace these well-loved amenities across the district, that they would likely be closed. So we are hopeful that we've provided information to the community so that you can make the decision that you need to make in May. And so I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
This is just it's a replacement basically. So we'll just be paying pretty much the same as we have been. Is that correct?
Generally, yes, we're targeting the same rate from 2008. That rate does fluctuate over time as more properties come into the district. As assessed value changes, that rate can change. But yes, we are targeting that same rate as 2008.
It would be nice if the district could come up with a great plan to annex in a bunch more people that are served by the district but not paying into it. I've always thought that, and I have some ideas. But.
Well, I'm happy you bring that up, and I should mention that every other year we do offer a voluntary annexation program where we are happy to take folks in that would like to join the district.
Right. A lot of people up in our area, their places were developed before it was required that new development annex into the ultimate service boundaries of the district. So guilt, guilt, guilt. Annex in.
Bruce, did you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to point out that the bond task force was made up of community members. It was community led. And that's really significant because in the past, THPRD has led some extremely diverse advisory groups on the master plan. And Washington County gave the THPRD Master Plan Task Force an annual award in recognition of the work they did. And so what that means is that community members like you and me and people dialed in would likely have approved the same recommendations that are in the bond in front of us. So this is not a bureaucratically driven top-down process. This is a grassroots up process recommending these things to maintain and enhance our recreation system. So that's my thoughts on it.
We have a question from the audience. AFF CME Local 3, would you like to introduce yourself? And be sure to unmute.
Yes, thank you. My name is Eric Feely. I live in Cedar Hills. I just it's hard for me to say I don't support this. It seems like it's necessary work, and I appreciate you describing it in detail. My question is about the choice between going for a bond versus just simply a more straightforward funding mechanism like increasing direct taxes. Because it just seems like the kind of work you've described, it's just regular maintenance and it's ongoing. It's almost like a continuation from the older bond, which was 20 years at the 20-year term. So I'm just kind of curious the choice between going out with a bond versus just direct taxation. Can you give us some detail on that?
Sure. Well, we have a local taxing system in Oregon that doesn't allow us to do that. The bond is the tool that can be used to garner that additional funding, as is an operating levy. There was tax reform in the late 90s that took what had been our primary funding source, which was serial levies, and converted it to a permanent tax rate. That permanent tax rate was tied to assessed value of homes, and it also is limited to 3% growth per year. So the reason why you probably hear from not just me, but other governmental agencies talking about the need to identify more funding and do things like bonds and levies is because the cost of maintaining these systems and the cost of staff to run these operations, these local governments that we're running, exceeds the 3% increase in revenue that we get each year out of our permanent tax rate. So what the tool that the state has provided for us to use when additional funds are needed is a bond, and it is an operating levy. So we are not able to change our permanent tax rate in any other way than those two primary methods.
I guess I'll just comment that it seems to me that we pay more money when we have to pay with a bond because we have to pay interest on the money versus just a direct taxation. So I'm sure that's obvious to some people, but it just seems like a more expensive way to do business. So, but thank you for that answer.
Absolutely.
Thanks. I'd like to go ahead and move on. If anybody has more questions for Aisha, right? Yeah, I'm sorry. If you want to send them to me at cpo1leaders@gmail.com, I will pass them along to her. So
thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. And that was a nice, concise presentation. Okay, our next position that we're going to hear from is the chair of the Washington County Board, and that's an at-large position that is elected by everyone in the county. So it will be on all the ballots, and it looks like we have everyone here. I have one question that was submitted, but I think I'll wait to present that until we hear from the candidates for the District 2, and then I'll ask it of all of you, since we have a little tiny bit more time. Actually, we're pretty much right on schedule now. And Pam was first on the list, so go ahead, Pam.
Thank you very much, Virginia, and thank you so much to all of you for being here tonight. It's great to be surrounded by civically engaged people. I'm proud to have represented District 2, which includes CPO 1 since 2019. I will have to admit that this conversation is a little bittersweet. You have seen in the announcement and heard from Virginia and Bruce tonight that this is the last CPO meeting in the current structure. We will be moving to one CPO per commissioner district, and I am pushing for that to happen by this fall. I will commit to this audience and the leadership of both CPO 1 and 7 that I will hold monthly town halls between now and the fall to keep you informed of the work of the county. While I recognize that my town halls won't provide the depth of information that you receive through the CPO structure, I will make every effort to keep you informed and to keep community engagement rolling forward. Thank you all for the work that you are doing and have done. You may not know, but running for office, before running for office, I had a long and diverse career, including being a public school teacher, a small business owner, and a nonprofit leader. As I got more involved in the community and in work strengthening our region, I felt called to run for office. And this feeling has only grown in the face of all the turmoil we are feeling. We all know our region has been facing tremendous challenges for years, and unfortunately, our challenges have only become more difficult and more compounded in this past year. With the turbulence we've seen from the federal government recently, I've become even more steadfast in my belief that local resiliency is critical and dedicated, experienced leadership is necessary to guide us through this crisis as we manage the day-to-day complexities of running a county our size. It is also really important to me to recognize the lived experience that my fellow commissioner, Nafisa Fai, brings to this work as an immigrant and a refugee. As chair, I will continue to support her work and leadership as she will remain on the commission. I bring to this role decades of experience across the public and private sectors, and I am committed to working together, bringing everyone to the table to achieve results for our community. I know today's politics are divisive, and some people don't want to hear about collaboration. But in my 7 years of elected office and work before that, I can tell you genuinely, it's the only thing that gets stuff done. And if you've worked with me in my role, you know it's the approach that I bring. I'm proud of the work I've done during my time on the commission to save the West Slope Community Library, open the Opal, a senior living and LGBTQIA+ friendly affordable housing complex, championing the Center for Addictions Triage and Treatment, or what we refer to as the CAT, a first of its kind facility to support people experiencing behavioral health challenges and substance use disorder. My commitment to you tonight as chair, I will keep making progress on the critical issues impacting us to keep Washington County the place that we love. As chair, I will prioritize supporting the implementation of our climate strategy, keep making progress on homelessness and wraparound services while we continue to dialogue this critical work with our neighbors, continue to address our housing shortage, ensure robust public safety services to keep our neighborhoods safe, protect the diversity that makes our county great, support our local businesses and jobs, and fight back against the cruel and racist attacks from the federal government. As chair, I will work to protect Washington County from the impacts of this large-scale economic turmoil by prioritizing the strength of our local businesses and, as a result, our economy. These jobs and our working families are truly the backbone of our community. I am proud to be endorsed by a majority of my colleagues on the Board of Commissioners and 11 of our mayors across the county. This reflects the experience and collaboration I will bring to the role. I received those endorsements through shared work on my written plan to improve the relationships between the office of the chair and the mayors. We need a chair who can build relationships, especially with our mayors, our legislators, and our special districts. I ask for, and I would be honored to have your vote, and I look forward to your questions tonight. And once again, thank you for being here. Virginia, Bruce, and others, Ika, thank you for your work in bringing this forward and making this possible.
I just want to make one brief correction. During I believe it was the January deliberations, Mary Manso requested that the new organization not be called the CPO to disambiguate. Yeah, so it's going to take some practice, but we need to talk about a public outreach or something, but not a CPO.
And Virginia, since we don't have a name yet, that's why I use that. But thank you for that correction.
You bet. Okay, next on our list is Nafisa Fai.
Good evening. Can you hear me, Virginia?
We can, yes, thank you.
Well, thank you, Virginia, and thank you for the efforts and the time that you put in to organize this. This is a great, wonderful opportunity to get our message out there and really have a dialogue and a conversation with so many people. My name is Nafisa Fai, and I currently serve as a Washington County Commissioner for District 1. I'm in my 6th year. I'm running for Washington County Chair because I believe our county plays a critical role as the economic engine of Oregon. And the decisions that we make today will determine whether our region and our county remains a safe and a prosperous place in the years ahead. I want our county to be a county where everyone has the freedom and the opportunity to thrive. My perspective from my perspective for county government comes from every side possible. As a community advocate, as a county staff working to improve service delivery, as someone who lobbied county government in the Tri-County area, and now as a commissioner who has been effective in delivering real results. County government helped my family when we first arrived in this country as refugees, and that experience drives my commitment to building systems that work efficiently and predictably for residents, workers, and businesses alike. As county chair, my focus is pretty straightforward. Strong public safety, infrastructure that supports economic growth, housing production that keeps our workforce here, and a deeper public and private partnership so that we can solve challenges together. I look forward to working with everyone, and I look forward to serving as your county chair and to make sure that our county, Washington County, stays and be the most competitive, economically competitive county in the region. So I look forward to earning your support and votes and holding me accountable and engaging with me. So thank you for this opportunity. I turn it to you, Virginia.
Thank you very much, Nafisa. Okay, Jenny.
Hi there. Good evening to everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Jenny Camprath, and I'm a lifelong Oregonian. I raised my family and have lived in Washington County for 35 years, and I'm running for Washington County Commissioner at Large because I know that I can make a difference. I believe the people of this county deserve a real choice at the ballot box. When the option presented are simply two sides of the same coin, it limits the kind of leadership and ideas our community deserves. I'm not a politician or an entrenched incumbent. I'm running to give a choice to the people of this county who are mostly overlooked by those who govern. Frankly, I'm running because I'm mad, and I know a lot of other people are too. I'm tired of the tax and spend approach from the county commissioners. Residents are not a bottomless piggy bank to fund priorities that many of us never asked for. Time and again, spending grows until the money runs out. Then we're presented with emotionally charged arguments suggesting that if we want things like police services or libraries to remain funded, that we must accept yet another new tax. Our community deserves responsible budgeting, clear priorities, and leadership that respects the limits of what residents can afford. I think county residents deserve to know how much of the $200,000 of emergency funds spent on immigration-related services went to feed and house Jesus Lopez Gonzalez, a member of the violent Trinidad ring and sex trafficking. The priorities of this county are out of whack. After the fraud and abuse found in Minneapolis and the magical millions of unspent dollars found in Portland and Salem, the first thing I'd like to do is initiate an audit to make sure that tax dollars are being spent responsibly. We need to slash red tape and fees, which are actually taxes, to cut the cost of building and living in this county to make it more affordable and to help the economy grow. The state collected over 250,000 signatures in 38 days from people from all sides of the political spectrum because they have had enough of the same status quo my opponents have to offer. I promise an open door policy if elected. It's time for new leadership, a new vision for Washington County, and a new voice to show the way. I'm asking for your vote for Washington County Commissioner at Large. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to wait to post questions, like I said, until we hear from the District 2 candidates. And it looks like we have all but one of them. So if you guys want to turn off your cameras. Hi, Felicita. Hello, Blaine. We also had a response from Stephen Kirkpatrick, and I spoke to him this morning, but I don't see him here. So we're not that far off time. So if he gets here, we'll jump him on in. Blaine, I have you listed first, so go ahead.
Excellent, thank you. You can hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Blaine Soleimani Pearson. I'm a dad, I'm a husband. Actually, our eight-year anniversary is coming up this month. And I'm currently a deputy district attorney in Multnomah County, and I focus on domestic violence prosecution. I have two memories from my life that I want to share with you to kind of tell you a little bit about who I am. The first was when I was very young, and I witnessed my mother get attacked by her then husband. I first was frozen in fear, but then used my body and my instincts to try and stop him. And while he was bigger and stronger and could have overpowered me, it taught me the importance of acting in spite of outrageous odds and the importance of just stepping forward. Fast forwarding to shortly after, well, when my wife and I got married during Trump's first term, and the ban he imposed on certain countries stopped members of my wife's family from attending our wedding. And that activated me to want to fight back and use legal means to fight. And I decided to become a lawyer. I wanted to fight for those who are taken advantage of by the system. And so I've been able to spend my time focusing on domestic violence victims and providing support for survivors. And that's what I thought I was going to spend my career doing. But I have been called to act based on the lack of action in our county over these last couple of years. And I believe we need people who will fight for justice, people who will stand up to federal overreach, to the thuggish behavior of federal agents. I believe we cannot have a passive approach to DHS, to ICE, or to the federal government threatening to withhold funding should we not follow their whims. We need people on this board who know how to use the law as a tool and a weapon to fight back. And to fight back to protect our most vulnerable residents. We are one of the top, most diverse counties in the state, and we need to start acting that way. And we need our leadership to reflect values that understand that. But safety is more than just pushing back against federal overreach. In my day job as a domestic violence prosecutor, I see the human cost of our policy failures every day in the courtroom. When people lack stable housing and consistent access to food, they are pushed to the margins. And that brings me to my first priority, and that's housing and economic stability. The housing crisis is disproportionately a crisis of displacement for Black, Indigenous, and immigrant families and families of color. As a renter myself, I know the pressure working families face. I want to move beyond a vague goal of just affordable housing, and I want to aggressively champion anti-displacement strategies. And that means pushing for workforce housing developments in high opportunity areas and exploring alternative ownership models. My second priority is community safety and justice reform. We must actively reduce the harm in our communities at every phase of the justice system. That starts with interactions with police callouts. We need to fully fund our mental health response team so that it can run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, not just in the daytime hours. We also must provide more robust services to vulnerable victims of crimes while a crime is ongoing. And we must remember that incarceration is used as a last resort for a minority of people. Most people enter back into society, and we need to make sure that our programs for people convicted of crimes are going to focus on rehabilitation and re-entry. That will keep victims safe, that will keep the community safe, and it will keep the people convicted of crime safe. By fully funding probation and supervision services, we can break the cycle of systemic inequity. And lastly, we must address transportation equity. In District 2, many working class residents and people of color rely on public transit or walking, yet our infrastructure investments often prioritize suburban car commuters over pedestrian safety. I will fight for last mile connectivity in our underserved, unincorporated neighborhoods. Simple things like sidewalks, lighting, and safe crossings ensure that a parent working a late shift can get home safely. Washington County needs a leader who brings a lens of equity, safety, and economic stability to the commission. And lastly, we need people on the commission who will act, not tell us why we can't do something. And that's why for the last several months, I have been pushing the levers of city government, the Washington County Sheriff's Office, to adopt an official policy response to ICE. Because despite what some people in leadership positions in this county think, law enforcement can do something. Not everything, but we can do something. And we need the community to know what law enforcement is going to do and what it's not going to do so that they feel comfortable calling police to interact. And we need to let the unlawful actions of these federal agents, we need to put them on notice that they're not going to just get away with it. We're going to observe, we're going to report, we're going to refer charges when appropriate, and they will face consequences. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today. Hi, Felicita.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Yay, tech is working. Can I get started?
Yep.
Thank you so much. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Felicita Monteblanco. Thank you for being here tonight and for engaging in democracy. Some of you I know well because I've been engaging and volunteering in this community for years. Most recently, I served 8 years as a board director for the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. During that time, I visited every single park in the district, more than 100 of them. And I did that because if there's a subject I want to understand better, I believe in doing the work. When the district began a visioning process and heard from more than 10,000 residents about what they wanted from their parks, I wanted to see firsthand what people were experiencing. So I drove across the district, visiting our most famous locations like Pirate Park, but also the small neighborhood gems like Little People's Park. That experience taught me something important about public service. Good policy starts with listening and paying attention. Over the past few months, I've been connecting with voters across the district. Just this weekend, I knocked my 700th door, and I'm working towards my goal of personally reaching at least 2,000 voters. And I commit to continuing knocking doors outside of election time because you are all very busy, and I want to meet you where you are. The topics I hear again and again in the neighborhoods are concerns of affordability and public safety. During my 8 years on the THPRD board, I worked to expand the Parks District's role in addressing one of the biggest challenges facing our community, the affordable housing crisis. Affordable housing developers were telling us that the Park District had become a barrier to building housing. Previous boards believed the issue was outside their lane. But when a crisis affects our residents, when people are struggling to afford a home in the community they love, then it absolutely becomes our responsibility to look for solutions. So we did. Projects like Reflections Plaza at Cornell and Murray helped lay the groundwork for the Parks District to partner with affordable housing developers. Later, at the Opal Apartments at Cornell and Saltzman, we waived fees to help create homes for our LGBTQ neighbors. By the time my term ended last year, the district had waived fees on 450 affordable housing units. That means 450 individuals, families, seniors, and veterans now have a roof over their head. That's the kind of impact local government can have. While leaders in DC argue and call each other names, here at the local level, we focus on the things that shape people's everyday lives. The parks where your kids play, the roads that get you to work and to school, and the housing that determines whether families can stay in the communities they love. Today, I serve as vice chair of the Washington County Planning Commission. While I might not always speak the same level of wonk as my peers, I learn a tremendous amount from them as we work through complex issues of land use. Land use decisions are some of the most challenging responsibilities for a county commissioner, and I will bring 2 years of hands-on experience with the Planning Commission to this role. I also know that we are living through a difficult moment in our country. Many people are worried about their own safety, the safety of their neighbors, and whether their communities will remain welcoming and inclusive. At the local level, we have the power to respond to those concerns by electing leaders who will stand up for our values. If elected, I will do everything in my power to protect our community. This is personal to me. That includes using county resources to protect the people who live here. For example, our sheriff has said that her department is not cooperating with ICE. As a county commissioner, I will take that responsibility seriously and make sure that commitment is upheld. The county can and should use the auditor's office to ensure the sheriff's deputies are in compliance with sanctuary laws. And the county must restrict contracts and spending with any companies that are in business with ICE or DHS. Let's not help Trump's friends get any richer. I appreciate that the county has provided funds to organizations supporting families impacted by ICE. This is a critical first step and must continue. I'm disappointed that the county did not engage in a lawsuit when it had the opportunity against the federal government. In this current climate, all jurisdictions must be bold. Finally, the county must convene. Washington County has 16 cities within its boundaries and dozens of special districts. Washington County has a unique opportunity and a moral obligation to bring people together to share good ideas and learn from each other's mistakes, all while centering community. I've lived off 185th Avenue for more than 35 years. This community is my home. County commissioners oversee a $2 billion budget and support more than 2,500 employees. This job requires relationships and experience. I'm proud to be the only candidate in this race endorsed by statewide and federal leaders, not because we agree on everything, but because they know I deeply engage, collaborate, and get results. I'm also the only candidate in this race with experience securing state and federal funding, which is one of the most important responsibilities of a county commissioner, bringing resources back home to serve our residents. At the end of the day, this job is about serving you, the people of Washington County, and I would be honored to earn your vote. Thanks so much.
Let's see, I still do not see Stephen. So let's go ahead and have all of our chair and District 2 candidates, and I will present a question, and I see one of our audience members has a question as well. This was sent in advance, so it gets a little priority. Do you agree with the county's current plan to not require background checks and not exclude level 2 and 3 sex offenders and violent criminal felons from living at the Northwest Cornell Transitional Housing Complex that has close to 4,000 children living or going to school in a 3-mile radius? And if you do not agree, what will you do to help change the current plan? Let's go ahead and just go, yeah. Well, we have audience members, and that's fine, but if any of you candidates want to answer that question, just go ahead and put up your hand. Jenny?
Yes, I'm not sure I understood the question correctly, but I will say that I agree that there should be barriers to those different components of people living in the pod communities that are near children. I heard recently a quote from somebody that works for the NGO working on that community that said it was not, she did not find it a valuable use of her time to alert the residents of what that they were coming in, what they were doing, and who would be housed there. And I'm absolutely against that for the homeowners and residents of that area to have this placed in their own backyard, threatening the safety. Everybody here is talking about safety, safety, safety. That threatens the safety of this neighborhood and the 4,000 children in that area.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're familiar with the Cornell Road development. Go ahead, Pam.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the question. That's why I did mention in my opening remarks that as we support homelessness services, as we support transitional housing, we have to be very thoughtful about this. And we have had dialogue with it's primarily in this case, the Oak Hills community. They have been very, very supportive of the concept of the transitional housing that's going in there. My takeaway is that there's a lot of respect for the recovery process. They are worried about the safety. I think we have to weigh the issues about whether or not someone who has, quote, paid their dues through our system has the right to have recovery resources available to them against what's happening in that community itself. This is a really tricky situation, and I support the community and their concern about this, but we also have to adhere to the best practices around recovery. I'm not certain that I agree 100% with the lack of background checks, but there must be a middle ground here that we can work toward, and that's what I'm working on, both with our staff and with the community. And that also includes, by the way, the presence of our public safety in that vicinity as well. And I'd just like to take this opportunity as well to shout out to the Oak Hills community for their work in bringing this issue forward, their continued work, and the work of the staff to try to meet together with them to put together good neighbor agreements.
Just one comment that the existing facilities that are managed by the management team that's coming in are not near neighborhoods. So we're hopeful that they know what they're doing. Felicita.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Go ahead.
As I was knocking doors this weekend, that's actually came up a handful of times. One of the pieces that I want to make sure that people understand is that they're, at least according to the website and all the questions that I have been asking as well, is that there will be security there 24/7. And that is a critical aspect of this program to ensure the safety of all our residents. One of the critical other pieces is the good neighborhood agreement, which ensures accountability on both ends, so that if you as a neighbor see something that is upsetting to you, that is concerning, that you have a phone number you can call, that you will get a quick response. If there's something that is upsetting and that needs to be addressed, you are empowered to get that information, and it's an accountability tool that's really critical. I know that it might feel better to put a location like this in rural Oregon and keep it away. But the reality is these individuals need access to resources, including public transit. So this type of area is ideal. And I agree with what Commissioner Tree said. I believe in a middle ground. I'm serious about safety. I'm a 5'3" woman. I think about it every hour of every day. And so I welcome this center, and I will be watching closely that they follow the rules and are accountable to their community.
Thank you. Nafisa?
Thank you. Thank you for that question, Virginia. I think this is something that I want to really celebrate and really say, great job of all the advocacy that the Oak Hills neighborhoods and the neighbors have done. One thing I've come to understand, and I said this in a public work session, is that I think the community did their job. They told the story of why they value public, background checks and what the trepidations are. And I think the county we're going to have to meet the neighbors where they are. I think one thing that I'm concerned about in terms of the background and when it comes to transitional housing, more specifically, low barriers, transitional housing is, it's not one size fits all, right? So I think what I'm interested in having a conversation with the staff is, how do we design something that is really specific to each neighborhood, because we're never going to really eradicate, I hope, but I don't know in my lifetime we'll ever eradicate homelessness. And I think that once we have homelessness, we're going to have to create these systems that make sure people that are not using the streets as a waiting room for housing. So we need to have these transitional housing. So I want to signal and I want to say to the neighbors of Oak Hill that I have no doubt you'll get what you want. And if that is background checks that really figures out, who gets access in that facility, and then where do we find access and services for the rest of the community members that cannot utilize. This is a very well-established neighborhood. And I think they told the true lived experience in that neighborhood. And I think what they're asking is pretty reasonable and practical. The question is, how do we design that? Because right now we don't have that model. And what we're, I think, sort of struggling right now is to design something that is really specific to each transitional housing that we create. I think we have a great staff in Washington County that, who are doing this work. They mean well. They're doing it in a way that is really rooted in how to lift people out of homelessness. So I really do believe and have a deep respect for our staff who do this work. But how we get there is going to be rocky. But know that, neighbors, keep advocating, keep pushing what you want. And I think you're going to have more commissioners that really hear your story and resonate. And then we're going to design that sort of, practical background check that is applicable to different sites, because this is going to be, there's just going to be more, sites that come online. So it might be the first one that we design background checks. Oak Hill might be the first site that we designed. This is specific sort of a process to get into the Cornell Road transitional housing, but it won't be the last. So, and the first thing is always, it seems like it's kind of it's impossible, but we've all witnessed the impossible first. And I look forward to that journey. And I look forward to dialoguing with the residents and look forward to sitting down. I've had sit down with some of the neighbors, and I learned a lot. And these are not like what I didn't hear is that not in my backyard, right? I didn't hear that. What I heard was really practical, principle request that says, here's what you're disrupting. And I know it's uncomfortable, but design the right process for me, because it's not one size fits all. So that's what I'm looking forward to. The conversation is to be continued, engage with the staff, look into best practices. We're not the only ones grappling with homelessness and low barriers and high barriers facilities. And the process exists.
Thank you, Nafisa. We need to keep going so that everybody gets a chance to answer. Blaine?
Virginia, I want to push back on us for a second, because you said I didn't seem to understand what the issue was, which is completely untrue. I've sat at
talking about pods. This isn't a pod.
Okay, it's a transitional housing. So I have sat at several of the commissioners' meetings and heard residents from Oak Hills give testimony. And I think one of the real problems is that this location was chosen and it's already done before the neighborhood's even told about what's happening. And then they feel like they have no voice in, and apparently there are meetings that have gone on, but it's already a done deal. They can maybe have some input into it, but it's already done before they're even told. And that's the problem with what the commissioners and these groups are doing. They're going.
We need to give everyone a chance, and you've already had a chance to speak. Blaine?
Yes, thank you, Virginia. I think this whole situation is such a great example of how, sure, you can say hi. You want to say hi? Say hi. That's cool, Nessa, everyone. So this is a perfect example of the community being told what's happening instead of being listened to, right? The reason there's so much angst and anger over this situation is because it felt like it was just plopped down, and people are told to trust the system and this is how it's going to work. As many people have said, I didn't hear, you always get a few people that say, I don't want this anywhere near me, put it out in, the outskirts of town. But most people were very thoughtful. A lot of people said, I really support this. I really like this. I'm concerned that we weren't engaged with as a community, and therefore I have these concerns. The background checks was one. What I would want to focus on at this point is not doing it this process in this way ever again. You get the community input ahead of time and you do a collaboration instead of telling them what's happening. And then also, let's see what we can do to assuage these fears. So it's, fairly close to sunset, it's pretty close to a daycare and elementary school. And there is a high school, I think, very close to that. So when school drop off and let out is happening, let's make sure there's extra security. Do we want to make sure that there's sheriff's deputies that are patrolling nearby if there's an issue? Maybe background checks aren't going to be dispositive of someone living there, but perhaps we can institute, you will get a background check so that we know who's there. The one thing I want to say is if people are barred and they are going through these problems that require them to go through transitional housing, I'd rather them be in that housing than be on the street and we don't know where they are. Because if these people would be barred because of their criminal background, well, better that they're in a place where they're less likely to have a relapse, and they have skin in the game to stay there, than to just be anywhere on the street. So that is what I'm trying to balance. As the father of 2 kids, I very much care about proximity of my children to people that have committed crimes against children, for example. So we can do it as a collaboration, but the whole problem was this process was not started as a process of collaboration, and that's what I would do differently if given the opportunity.
Thank you. We have questions from the audience. Are your questions specifically for the chair and District 2 commissioners, or are they more general questions? Kenzo, you had your hand up first.
Hi there, this is Tanya and Kenzo calling in. I more or less wanted to ask everybody this because I feel like everybody on the call mentioned economic prosperity in some way, shape, or form. And
okay, let's hold on to that for the end of the meeting then, and we can ask all of the candidates. Is that all right with you?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Antonia?
There. My question is for 2 specific candidates. It's for Felicita Monteblanco and for Pam Trees. Felicita, I would like to, as an immigrant myself, a member of the community, and someone that has been directly working with the immigrant community, I would like to know what is your understanding or knowledge around supremacy law or federal law, the supremacy clause, versus what local law enforcement has a duty to do within their jurisdiction. And also, what, if any, conversations as a Latina community leader have you had with local law enforcement about protecting immigrants? And for Pam Tree, I would like to know, what was the barrier for you to join Nafisa Fine in enacting a state of emergency for Washington County, given the crisis that came to my community? Thank you.
Those are good questions. Thank you.
I think I got all that. Nice to hear from you, Antonia. I appreciated our conversation recently. Okay, several questions, which I wrote down. I'll go in order of the reverse. I've talked to the sheriff's office. The president of the Sheriff's Office Association. I've actually reached out to Sheriff Massey multiple times. I know she's busy. I know she has a job to do. So I'm giving her grace. But I would love to meet with her if someone here wants to help me with that. I recently held I hold these Latino social hours, which I've been doing for several years. And I did a session about nonviolent non-cooperation, because in order to beat this authoritarian regime, we have to flex, and we have to flex with our dollars. And we've seen some small examples, we've seen some big examples across the country. And so I brought Latino leaders together to talk about this opportunity and how we can practice, and how we can get ready for May Day, May 1st, 2026, but also May Day 2028, to really push back, because we have a lot of power as individuals, and we need to make sure we're flexing that and spending our dollars in a way that is in alignment with our values. Sometimes it feels like it's the only thing we can do. Supremacy clause versus law enforcement. Here's what I know is that it was several years ago, I got my ballot measure experience on Measure 105, which was a disgusting anti-immigrant measure, pushing to repeal sanctuary law in this country. I was proud. I was at Virginia Garcia at the time, and I was proud to work with Pacoon, Causa. Unfortunately, they don't exist anymore. Adelante, and lots of other wonderful groups. This state, the voters have been very clear that they do not want the local law enforcement using any of their resources to work with this, to help with immigration enforcement. Couldn't be prouder of the voters. I didn't really know what was going to happen going into that vote, and really proud of Oregon's values shining through. And so that will continue to shape not only how I lead and how I make decisions, but it's clear that the voters of Oregon and especially Washington County want to keep our communities safe and our families together.
Thank you, Felicita.
Thanks, Virginia.
You've got just a minute or two to answer. I'm sorry, we need to keep moving.
Well,
I get to be the bad guy.
I'll try to be quick. Antonia, thank you very much for your question. I did support our state of emergency declaration along with my fellow commissioner Nafisa Fai, and I supported the funding that we allocated as well. I'd also like to take this just a step forward and let you know that just today, I talked about comments that I made on the Federal Registry about our HUD dollars and what's at risk right now for our communities that are receiving HUD funds for their families. And what's happening is basically we currently provide HUD funds based on the eligibility of the family members. You may have a family where the parents are not documented, but the children are. And in that case, the funding under the current HUD rules only allows for funding for those two children. What's at risk right now, and we all should know this, is that HUD is looking at rulemaking to enact to eliminate mixed eligibility in terms of funding. So in the situation I just described, if this rulemaking goes forward, that means that household would not get any funding. That is intolerable, and that will also lead to more deportations. We need to band together, and we need to address this. Antonia, I appreciate your question, and I want you to know that there are many facets of this federal intervention that we're looking at, and it'll take all of us to be aware of all the different aspects and fight this together.
Great. Fran, do you have a really quick question? Because we really need to move along to the next position. I know there's no such thing.
Well, maybe it's something that I can, my name is Fran Warren, and I'm president of Tree Keepers of Washington County. And Tree Keepers is obviously very concerned about the urban tree canopy in our county for many reasons, health, safety, etc. Maybe you could at least put into your platform your position on tree protection policy and what it would take, for instance, for you to endorse a study or the process so that we can protect these existing trees, especially in CPO 1. We just had a lot of clear cut for middle housing even though it was not supposed to happen. And so we need to figure out, I mean, we're documenting it now. So we need to fix this problem, both here and across the county. So we don't have time for it, but please answer this in your campaigns.
Okay, we really have to move along to the next position. I'm sorry. And like I said, if you didn't get a chance to get your question followed up with, please send me an email and I will submit it to the people that you want me to. Put your hands down. Let's get ready for the next position. And that would be Metro District 4. And we have Alex Fan and we have Miles Palacio. Blaine, go ahead and turn your video off. And I will do the same. Thank you, guys. The basic question that we all want to hear is how will you represent the people of CPO 1 and CPO 7 and how you'll stay in touch with us. But go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us why you want to be District 4 commissioners.
I think I'm first on the list. So good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be introduced to your group tonight. My name is Alex Fan, and I'm running for, as Virginia said, Metro Council District 4, because I deeply care about the future of Washington County and the region that I've called home my entire life. I'm not someone, who moved here recently. I grew up here. I went to Beaverton High School. I graduated from Beaverton High School, actually, and but I will mention I went to Aloha for 3 years as well. So I'm a warrior at heart. Washington County isn't just where I live, it's where I was raised, where I built my career, and where my family and community are. Like many families in this region, my parents came here seeking opportunity. Growing up wasn't always easy. There were times when housing stability was a real challenge for my family. We lived in about 10 different apartments. And those experiences shaped how I see our community today. Those experiences really taught me something special, that housing stability really creates opportunity. When families have stable housing, kids can focus on school, parents can build careers, and communities can ultimately become stronger. That belief has led me into a career in housing and real estate, where I've spent just about 2 decades helping families buy homes, helping seniors transition, and working with developers build housing across our region. I'm proud that myself and 3 of my friends, we helped secure $20 million in federal dollars to develop a 41 unit affordable housing community for the Micronesian community here in Oregon. And also really proud that 90% of those units are family-sized units, which means they're 3-bedroom affordable units. Through my work, I've seen our housing system from every angle, working with first-time home buyers, working with renters trying to become homeowners, working, like I said, developers navigating the permitting system, and everyday families who are just struggling with affordability. Outside of my real estate work, I've also served as board chair for Home Plate Youth Services, which is Washington County's only service provider for youth that struggle with housing instability or homelessness. It's an organization that supports youth. So I've seen both sides of the housing issues. I've seen the market side, I've seen the human side. And that experience is important to me because many of the decisions that Metro makes around land use, housing, transportation, and regional planning, those directly affect the future communities like those here in CPO 1 and 7. I've also actually served as the chair for Clean Water Services Advisory Commission as well. And most recently, I was appointed by President Lynn Peterson to serve on the SHS Reform Task Force. I'm running because I believe our region needs practical leadership that's focused on results. We're obviously facing some serious challenges right now. We've got housing affordability, we've got homelessness, businesses that continue to leave our region, families feeling like the region's becoming harder to live in. At the same time, I strongly believe that Washington County remains one of the best places in the country to live, work, and raise a family. But keeping it that way is going to require leadership that listens to residents to make thoughtful decisions. If I'm elected, there will be 3 areas that I'm going to focus on. 1, housing supply and affordability. The biggest driver of affordability is supply, and for far too long, we've had a very anti-growth mindset. We need to build more housing of all types while protecting the livability of our communities. Second, we need accountability for public spending. Taxpayers deserve to know what programs are funded with public dollars and actually deliver real results. Lastly, supporting the economic vitality. Washington County has long been a place where businesses can grow and families can find opportunity. We need to maintain that balance between economic growth, environmental stewardship, and livable communities. What makes me different as a candidate, I think, is simple. I bring these three things together. One, deep roots in Washington County. Two, 20 years of experience working directly in housing and development. And three, a real community service through my nonprofit leadership and my local involvement. The decisions that Metro makes affect my neighbors, my business, my children's future, and the community that raised me. I'm also proud to be endorsed by the current Metro Councilor, Juan Carlos Gonzalez, for his seat, and also the previous councilor, Catherine Harrington. I'm running again because I believe this region deserves leadership that understands our communities and is committed to making thoughtful, balanced decisions for the future. So thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I look forward to your questions.
Thanks for joining us, Alex. Miles?
Thank you, Virginia. Well, my name is Miles Palacios. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm Oregon born and raised. Though not from Washington County, I do come from the Wine County of Yamhill County. I grew up in an agricultural hub where my first job out of college was making wine. From being out in the fields to being in the cellar, preparing grapes for fermentation and bottling, or selling wine in the wine bar. I did it all. That experience taught me something early. Nothing meaningful happens without people working together from the ground up. I'm the son of an educator and a city employee. I was raised in a union family where my father and siblings were members of the Oregon Educators Association and Oregon School Employees Association. I was taught that leadership and service are inseparable. You don't get one without the other. That belief has guided my entire life. Committed myself to service, personally and professionally. From youth leadership development with the Oregon Association of Student Councils to work in the legislature, to lobbying on behalf of counties, to serving as an elected official with THPRD. I've worked as a policy analyst in Governor Brown's office, partnered closely with Metro through their Metro Policy Advisory Committee, seeing how government works when it works and what happens when it doesn't. That's why I'm running. Metro is a unique partner in our Tri-County region. There's no other level of government like it anywhere in the country. Metro manages the zoo, our regional arts institutions, plays a critical role in housing and homelessness services, shapes transportation, land use, contracts, and conservation. Stewards our urban growth boundary and helps unlock the dollars that allow communities to grow responsibly and launch major public projects. It was built to solve large-scale regional problems in support of cities and counties. Metro doesn't replace local government, but when it's working right, it empowers it. My goal is to build on the strong advocacy already happening in Washington County and across the region, to strengthen what's working and improve what isn't. That means making public transit safer and stronger district-wide, means investing in economic development for both large and small businesses, especially in places like Hillsborough that are driving innovation and opportunity. Means addressing affordable housing, not just for our lowest income neighbors, but for the middle-class families who are being priced out of communities they love. Means thoughtful development, development that prioritizes transit hubs, connects people to jobs, and builds communities instead of congestion. And it means supporting, and it means continuing to support Metro's essential work in waste management, parks and conservation, the zoo, our art centers, and our neighborhoods, because quality of life is not a luxury, it's infrastructure. So why me? I bring an informed, proven leadership, experience as an organizer, a nonprofit executive, and an elected official. I've worked at the city, county, special district, and state levels, inside the legislature and the governor's office. I understand how decisions are made, how policies are implemented, how to move ideas from vision to reality. And I bring independence. Will not be a rubber stamp or a vote led by anyone other than the people I represent. My responsibility is to my community. We'll stop. And here's how we do this. The urban growth boundary is the linchpin. Land use, zoning, housing, transportation, it all connects here. We need community-focused conversations that break down the silos we've built and bring every voice to the table. There won't always be a perfect answer, but there must always be an informed one. Metro Councilor is not an overseer of county, special, or local governments. Metro Councilor is a convener, a binding agent, someone who brings leaders together, aligns interests, and helps our region move forward collectively. And I can't do that work alone, can't be effective without the leaders that are in this room. And I sure can't be effective without you and your trust and your support. I'm running because I believe in this region, its people, its potential, and its future. And I'm ready to serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miles. We're running late. We have all of our participants that are ready to participate going forward. And as I said, if you have a question that didn't get answered, please email me and I will pass it along. I'm sorry, we're going to just have to cut it off because I don't think very many of us want to stay here all night. Our next topic is the Oregon Senate District 17, and we have Lisa Reynolds, Autumn Sharp, and John Chi. So if you guys want to go ahead and turn on your cameras, and the order that I have you in is Lisa, Autumn, and John. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Virginia. Here, I'm just going to set my, I don't think I'm going to use the whole time, and I'm happy to, but I do want to set a stopwatch. Okay, great. Good evening. Hi, great to be back with the folks at CPO1, my old stomping grounds. I miss living out there. I'm back living in Portland right now. But my name is Lisa Reynolds. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a pediatrician. I'm a mom, I'm an activist, and I'm running for re-election to the Oregon State Senate. I have been a state representative, first elected in 2020 in the middle of COVID. And was a state representative for 4 years and then was appointed to the Senate 2 years ago. I should say a year and a half ago. And so this will be my first Senate election. I've been a pediatrician in Washington County going on 30 years now, and it's work I really love. In fact, I spent today in the clinic for the first time in about 5 weeks after taking some time off to be in session. And I decided to run for office, 6 years ago because I wanted to do more for my patients than what I could accomplish in the exam room. While I love the one-on-one time with families and patients, I felt I could do more could do additional work for them at a policy level. And it's been really rewarding work being that voice in the legislature that always puts the needs of kids first. And I will say, although when I entered the legislature, I was one of 3 physicians there, along with Dr. Maxine Dexter, who's now a U.S. Congresswoman, and Dr. Elizabeth Steiner, who is now our state treasurer. I think having the medical expertise in the legislature has proved very valuable. In my time in the legislature, in between seeing patients, I'm proud of the work that I've helped influence and helped bring to fruition. I got my start as an activist on gun violence prevention, and every year that I've been in the legislature, we have passed a bill that has improved gun safety, or we have funded community safety violence intervention, community-based violence intervention. I'm very proud of that work. We passed a bill last week. I will say it was a stripped down version of the bill that passed the Oregon House, but this is sometimes the reality of lawmaking, that there has to be some give and take in what's possible to pass across the finish line. Other things that I've been particularly proud of is my maternal child health initiative, which we branded as Momnibus. In the 2025 session, we passed 3 bills that improve outcomes in maternal child health. We've vastly expanded access to doula services, which we know that when doula services are provided during pregnancy, during delivery, and during the postpartum period, that we see a decline in our disproportionately high rate of maternal morbidity, which is sickness, and mortality, which is death. A lot of you may know that the U.S. has the highest maternal mortality among wealthy nations. We also have a rising infant mortality rate here in the U.S. And so the work I did on doula care, the work we're doing on making sure that families get put to the front of the line when they're housing insecure, for the housing funding and housing programs that we do, and funding programs like the Oregon Perinatal Collaborative, which has really moved the needle on hospital care of mothers and their babies. The other thing that I've been really involved with is mental health. I'm the chair of the Senate Committee on Early Childhood and Behavioral Health. We have worked to put a lot more money in the system. We have a long way to go. We've developed a new licensing pathway for an innovative group of students coming out of the Ballmer Institute at University of Oregon. And I continue to fight for improved reimbursement and access to healthcare, including primary care. The other work that I was proud of in particular this past session was work on safety around when people are suicidal and they're interacting with AI chatbots. We have seen bad outcomes, even an uptick in suicides when people are using AI chatbots. And so we've put some important sideboards on that. I'm working hard to prevent THC toxicity from large potency marijuana products. That was a bill I passed in the Senate, but it didn't make it over to the House. And I am working to solve the problem that my community has brought to me in terms of needles on our streets. I will say that the bill that Christine Drazen brought forward and got a lot of press this season would have ended, not only would it have ended harm reduction in our community and in our state, I could not have passed it out of my committee, nor could I have passed it on the Senate floor. So I am meeting with community members. I have a meeting with the county next week. And of course, I've already talked to city councilors about this. And here's what I will say. Oh, I've gone 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. I think I'm honored to be here and honored to hear from the other candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for being responsible. We appreciate you coming. Autumn, you're next.
Hi, thanks so much. I'm going to set my timer as well. I'm Autumn Sharp. I'm the Democratic candidate for District 17 Senate. And thank you so much for inviting me. It's so great to be here this evening. I am currently an assets operations manager for EcoTrust. It's a 35-year-old regional nonprofit working at the intersections of equity, economy, and the environment. I've wanted to work for EcoTrust for 25 years, and last November I made that dream come true. I'm extremely determined when I've got something I want to do. My educational background includes a Master of Science in Ethnobotany, the interrelationships between plants and people. I have an MFA in creative writing from Pacific University in Forest Grove, and my BAs in English from Portland State. I'm currently a member of the Community Advisory Committee for Multnomah County's homelessness response system. And I'm going on 2 years with that appointment. And so I've been deeply entrenched in working really hard to solve our biggest challenges in our district right now with homelessness and drug addiction. And then I'm also a co-founder of Friends of Cooch Park. We founded Friends of Cooch Park 2.5 years ago with the single mission to keep Cooch Park safe for our kids. Because if we make it safe for kids, we make it safe for everyone. So I also teach creative writing electives at my daughter's school. She goes to MLC, which is just adjacent to Cooch Park, which is why I'm very invested. I'm not a politician. I'm a working single mother. I'm an award-winning poet and a renter in Northwest Portland. My resume does reflect more than 20 years of operations and communications leadership. And prior to that, I self-funded my college education managing restaurants in Portland. I managed Papa Haydn's, and I've managed Mother's Bistro and Moonstruck Chocolates and Oba, and all of those old great favorites that a lot of people have fond memories of, including me. I have a really diverse background that reflects the diversity of our district, and I've spent my childhood in Puerto Rico, so I speak Spanish. I've lived all across the American West, and I've lived several times overseas. So I do bring a unique perspective back to Portland for working across diverse communities, and really understanding that diversity is not about identity politics, but about everyone thriving to achieve their dreams together. Let's see, my priorities. Keep areas near schools safe and focused on children. Limit distribution of drug paraphernalia near schools. Take a balanced approach to homelessness and addiction. Support treatment, recovery, and coordinate between public agencies. And lead with real world experience. I bring a background in blue collar and white collar, Coast Guard service, restaurant operations. I'm a real person. I want to help real people solve the biggest challenges in our district today. I'm not the best one to toot my own horn, so I thought I'd read a couple things that other people have said about why I'm the best person to represent our neighbors in CPO 1 and 7. Sharp's got my vote. This is the way politics should work. People have to stand on their record, and if they can't or won't provide a justification, then we can vote them out of office. Autumn's running because she's part of Friends of Cooch Park and is a working class parent. I've met her a couple times, and she is a great person. Autumn, thanks for continually standing up for the community, and who knows, you might win. This effort has brought thoughtful debates and conversations into how policies actually play out in the neighborhoods. That's in reference to Senate Bill 1573 to limit the distribution of drug paraphernalia around schools. That did not make it out of committee in this last legislative session.
Autumn, thanks. We got to keep moving.
Yep. Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
John, tell us why you should represent us over here on the west side of the mountains.
Thank you, Virginia, for hosting this forum. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the pioneers that made Senate District 17 habitable and prosperous for our generation and the many to come. From the Hall, Meek, Jones, and Walker families to Samuel Walters and his family as the first white settlers, and William Cornell, likely the first Christian preacher in the area, and his family. I'm John Chi, the Republican candidate for Senate District 17. For a short biography of myself, I grew up in the household I live in today in the Bethany neighborhood of Portland, Oregon. I went to Westview High School and then graduated from Portland Community College and received my bachelor's and master's degree in computer science from Portland State University. My career took me down to the San Francisco Bay Area, where I worked at both startups and big technology firms like X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm a software engineer by trade. After seeing some of the foolishness that is California politics and being a fiercely active voter since the revival of the Republican Party leading up to 2016, I became involved in the pro-life movement in Silicon Valley. Meeting the men and women involved in the conservative and pro-family movement was awe-inspiring, and I supported their fight for life both materially and with my time. Working with a life-affirming local clinic, I met with men who were experiencing the natural consequences of premarital sex. My eyes were open to a demographic that I now see as neglected, not only along the entire West Coast, but nationwide. I moved back up to the Portland area with my wife of 16 years in 2024 and have been reorienting myself to the new yet similar West Portland area. I decided to investigate the local political playing field, and after talking with some of the local political leaders in Oregon, I was informed that the Republican candidacy for Senate District 17 is open. I believe spirited political competition provides you, the voter, with better policies, so I'm bringing my best to the competition for Senate District 17. In this election, my priorities will be to legislate in a way that enables young men in our district and all Oregonians to start and build families, businesses, and homes. In practice, That means I'm for biblical marriage, I'm pro-life, against property taxes, and for entrepreneurs and small and home businesses. I support local home builders, local home buyers, and local home lenders. I'm for the growth of professional trades. I'm against taxes on transportation. I hope to see an increase in fee-for-use services, prosecution of vagrancy and drug use, especially anywhere near where children gather, such as parks and schools. I firmly believe in the right and responsibility of men to protect themselves and their families. It says in the United States Constitution that the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. I am against broad-based taxes of every form, especially against funding any program that will take away the next generation's earnings and livelihood before they've even earned a dime. Last session, this district was represented by a leftist, and it's time for change. Perusing through her Senate records, she sponsored HB 4135, which declared an emergency in order to promote 9-year-olds getting vaccinated for STDs. She declared another emergency to enact protections for abortion, that is infanticide, and transgendering treatments, including sterilization and bodily mutilization. Suffice it to say, I will not support the medical industrial complex, nor pro-death anti-family legislation if elected as your senator. Vote for John Chi and let's work together to build a solid, healthy, connected community from Bethany to Oak Hills to Cedar Mill to Northwest Portland. I believe God created men to work and their wives to help care for their land, family, and community. God willing, we will build you and your family in Oregon Senate District 17. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John, and thank you, candidates. We got to keep moving. The next position is for Oregon House District 27. We haven't seen Mark Norman appear. We have Zach here for Tammy Carpenter. Tammy is probably still in the Beaverton School District meeting, and we have Ashley Prig. So Ashley, let's go ahead and have you go first.
Sounds good. Thank you, Virginia. Hello, everyone. I wanted to tell you a story about when I was 5 years old and that my family and I would play a game every night after dinner. We'd pile into our old station wagon and we'd head to a nearby office building, and that's when the fun started. My parents would unlock the doors, turn on the lights. We stepped into the building and the musty smell would hit our noses as we walked in. We were too small to push the big garbage cart, so my siblings and I would race through the dark rooms, grabbing the garbage cans hidden under desks to see who could empty the most into the big bin the fastest. Now that I'm older, I know that these nights were not a game. They were a necessity. They were what helped my parents pay the rent for our apartment and put gas in our car. Monday through Thursday, we did garbage and toilets. Weekends were for vacuuming, and all of it was for the money my family needed to keep our heads above water, to scrape our way towards the middle class. My name is Ashley Hartmeyer Prigg. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a lifelong resident of Beaverton. I know that my family's experience with second jobs and no affordable childcare is the norm as costs rise and support weakens, and in it is an unacceptable norm. It's why I've decided to run for Beaverton City Council 4.5 years ago. It's why I've served our community through that time. And it's why I'm here today with you to talk about my race for the state representative position in House District 27. Today, so many families face the same hard choices that my own did every month. Pay the phone bill or buy groceries, put gas in the car or pay the heating bill. And it can be a constant balancing act. And adding to that stress now is the impact of a reckless federal government that is compromising our freedoms, threatening our families, and treating working people like pawns in a chess game. Enough. Our government has a basic obligation to ensure every person in our community has their basic needs met. And I know in my heart that as an Oregonian, our government has the capacity and the drive to do that and so much more for our communities with the right leadership. We live in an extraordinary place filled with progressive, extraordinary people, and there has never been a more urgent time for us to deliver on those values. Beaverton is not perfect. No city is. No leader is. but I'm proud of delivering on my promises to my community. I worked on the housing crisis, and I helped create over 600 new affordable units. I championed programs to make first-time homeownership possible in Beaverton. I brought my professional background in building innovative software to government, and we are a city that prioritizes transparency and efficiency. I've proudly stood alongside neighbors and advocates to hold ICE accountable and ensure that our Beaverton neighbors have strong voices that are willing to stand up for them. And now I'm ready to stand up and serve in the state legislature to deliver on the promise of what our state, our community, and you all deserve. You can count on me to work on reducing the cost of living. We must make real progress on affordable housing, healthcare, and groceries. We must ensure our strong public schools have opportunity for students, whether that's college, university, or quality apprenticeship that sets them up for their future. I want to work on increasing government transparency. It's a time to lead now with an open door and an open heart, with integrity in our values, not vitriol and shouting. And I want to protect those Oregon values. I'm ready to stand up to a federal government that has reached way too far. I will stand up for our right to vote and for meaningful climate action. I will defend our strongest in the nation protections for LGBTQ+ folks and reproductive health care, including abortion. And I will continue to stand up and defend our immigrant communities. My story is Beaverton's story. It's a story of hard work, hope, and the need for a community that supports you when times are tough. We are that community, and I am ready to go to Salem and fight for all of us. I will stay connected to you, the residents of CPO 1 and 7, through semi-monthly town halls that will be virtual and in person. And when the new version of county participation groups are established, I'd love to have an opportunity to connect with you there. We'll be able to meet during session, as well as we'll be keeping things up to date on social media. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you tonight, and I hope to earn your vote on May 19th.
Thank you very much, Ashley. And Zach is here to speak for Tammy Carpenter. I guess the school board meeting is still going.
Long meetings, those school board members are heroes, staying late nights until the evening. So yes, hi everyone. My name is Zach Sermach. I am Tammy Carpenter's campaign manager. You probably don't want to see me. You want to see Tammy. And so I'm really sorry that I have to disappoint you. You will not see my name on your ballot on May 19th. You will see Tammy's name. So I highly recommend folks that are, if you're sitting on your computer right now, watching along, you can go to tammyfororegon.com to see who Tammy is, what she looks like. She does not look like me. So, you will find all of that information about Tammy. I'll be very quick. Tammy can share her story way better than I can, but Tammy has been living in Beaverton for over 20 years. She moved here from Chicago to go to OHSU to get her residency as an anesthesiologist. She is just a wonderful person at heart who cares for people, and being a doctor, I think, is one of the best ways to show your service to the public, helping folks of all ages, get the care that they need, and, in very, very vulnerable situations. After 20 years of service as a physician, she then went to the Beaverton School Board, ran for office for the Beaverton School Board, and there it's been awesome, right? Just as doctors don't turn away any patients, school board members and teachers don't ever turn away students, and I think that's kind of the vision that she takes with her into this race, and would take with her to the state legislature, as someone who wants to serve all people, no matter their gender, their background, their how much money they make, or where they come from, or what they're going through. So she wants to be someone who represents all of Beaverton, all of Cedar Hills, all of Raleigh Hills, all of the neighborhoods of House District 27 here, and the west, just west of the river, west of Portland. And our platform is pretty simple. We want universal health care, so every single person should have access and to affordable and high quality health care, and should not be turned away, should not be forced to deal with medical debt for the rest of their lives because they just needed to take care of themselves. And so I don't know if folks here know, but the state legislature is working on a plan for universal health care that's like Medicare for all, right? Not just for people over the age of 65. It's OHP for everyone, that with high quality care. So healthcare, as a doctor, Tammy knows that this is something that's really, really difficult for folks, especially as the Trump government decides to raise our healthcare costs, to take away the subsidies that we've been receiving for years and years. So healthcare is a top priority for Tammy. Obviously fully funding our schools and making sure all of our students get a quality education as a school board member. And then, I would say that Tammy's pretty strong on housing, protecting our renters, maybe talking about some types of rent stabilization, similar to what Zoran has been talking about in New York with rent freezes, so that, when our wages aren't going up by 10% and our rent is going up every single year by 10%, that doesn't really make much sense. And that's not really fair to working people just trying to get by. And so I think the last thing I would say is that, a lot of folks like to, ask, how do you pay for these, high quality services? How do we pay for the things that, we want for our families, like healthcare, like good schools, like good housing, like climate action? What our policy is to tax the wealthiest and the biggest corporations who continue to avoid the responsibility that they have to paying for the services that we need. They use our roads, they use our environment and our resources, and they don't pay workers very well, right, in many cases. And so these are the folks that avoid their responsibility, find loopholes. And as we're seeing with the Trump tax breaks from the One Big Beautiful Bill, they're draining our state budgets, and then that requires cuts. And what I continue to say, and what Tammy continues to say, is, why do working people have to tighten their belts? Why, when we're already struggling, when we're already trying to make ends meet, when we're already working hard? I think it's time for the rich people to pay their fair share, for the big corporations to pay their fair share. And so, yeah, I would highly recommend going to Tammy's website, Tammy for Oregon. I am not Tammy, as a reminder. I am Zach, Tammy's campaign manager. Tammy is the candidate running for House District 27. You can learn more at tammyfororegon.com. I hope I didn't go too long, Virginia. I know there's other people that need to talk. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much. No, actually, that's it.
Yeah.
The other candidate didn't show up. And I think, as I said, if you have comments or questions going forward, please send them to me at cpo1leaders@gmail.com. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry if people had questions or comments that they wanted to continue making, but I believe in ending a meeting when we say we're going to end the meeting, and we've got only 2 minutes left, and I'd say let's adjourn.
Virginia, Mark Norman is saying that he's been on this whole time. And
he has. There he is. You're absolutely right. He just popped up as far as I can see. Mark, go ahead. Thank you, Jenny. Mark, are you there? Oops. Promote to panelist. Mark. You need to accept the promotion to panelist. There, he declined to be promoted to panelist. All right, let's let him talk. Mark, are you there? I'm going to try promoting you one more time, and you need to accept being promoted to panelist. I think being able to participate in the Zoom meeting needs to be a requirement. Hello, Mark. You can talk now, or you can accept the promotion to panelist. Declined again. Well, you can still talk. Mark going once. Mark going twice. I'm really sorry. I don't quite know what to do. Anybody have any suggestions?
I think we call it.
Let me try one more time.
I wonder if he's muted.
He's not accepting the promotion to be a panelist.
Okay.
Okay, now maybe he did. Okay. No, I think he went away. Well, darn. I think we did all we could. I'm very sorry. If he comes back in and gets a hold of me, I'll publish something on the CPO1 Facebook page. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Good night. We pulled it off, our marathon candidate forum. And farewell for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.